Okay, today is the day that a project I've been thinking about finally is just getting pushed out there. And you know, when you have all these ideas and they just don't happen because, you just never get to it. Remember my trip to Sony Kondo? So after that trip, I realized I needed to connect more with creators, with photographers, and share it with you guys, an interview podcast show. Now, I know what you're saying. You already have a podcast. It's called the Moe and O Show. And yes, you should check that podcast out. That's a podcast I do with my best friend Mo. We hang out, we talk shop, photography, food. But this podcast, this is something totally different. This idea came from going to Sony Kondo and seeing all the wonderful creators and photographers. So I jotted down the idea after that trip to interview more creators, and I just never got to it. And so this is the beginning of finally getting to it. I didn't record a lot of episodes. I don't have tons. I just had to get it started. So the podcast is called The Photographer's Eye. And the goal is to kind of connect and pick the brain of other photographers, what they're thinking, the creative process in creating beautiful photographs. We all think differently and we all create differently. And so I invite you to the first episode, and I thank John Branch IV. He was nice enough to come onto the podcast that didn't exist and is our first guest. We already have a few more people lined up, and I look forward to just having more conversations with photographers out there and bringing them to you. Now, in addition to hooking up with other creators, I also am working on my own interview skills and my own speaking skills. So this is also a personal project for me to be a better interviewer and a better host. So please bear me. You see, I can't even talk. So please bear with me in the first few episodes as it's all growing pains, but at least the project has started. And I thank you guys for coming along on the ride. All right, here it is, episode 1, the Photographer's Eye podcast. Maybe we'll get some merch and stuff like t-shirts. Okay, let's just roll tape. Man, we're gonna have a good time. I just know it. Hey guys, Omar here, and today I am with world-famous wedding photographer, Fujifilm Ambassador, and self-proclaimed dork. Oh, sorry, nerd, it says on your website. John Branch IV. Hey, how are you, man?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, thanks so much for joining me. It does say you're a nerd on the website, and I can totally relate, man.
I mean, yeah, you got your Hulk in the back.
You know it, but we make the best photographers, don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think anyone who is kind of okay with being a nerd and a dork, it makes you harmless right away. And I know for event photography, that's probably a huge benefit, right?
Yes, exactly. Connecting any kind of way you can connect with your clients is like the best.
Yeah. And people read like each other so quickly. So if you break those barriers, you only have like 5 minutes with grandma to get pictures,
Yep.
So
And that's the hardest part, really.
Yeah. But by the end of the night, I'm sure you're dancing with grandma, right? Like,
oh. You really, if you check out my reviews at all, like on the Knot or something, there's literally a lot of that. Like at least 8 out of 10 couples always review, and they're like, and John was out there on the dance floor with us, and it was so cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I find that, I work mostly bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs here in New Jersey. I love them because it's kids for the most part. And being a dork myself, I get to like break loose, and the kids are jumping all over the place, and I'm in there getting great shots of them. But also, I always say from 2 to 99 or 2 to 100, you have to be able, as a good event photographer, right, relate to all ages, and kids can't be afraid of you.
Exactly. That's actually that's the reason why I stopped really doing family photography. I found that while I am very personable and fun with kids, I have 3 kids myself. I love kids.
Yeah.
I used to do summer camp with like 5-year-old. Like I love kids.
Yeah.
But I found that sometimes you just don't connect with them, and if you don't, the whole session is
forget
gone.
It. Yeah.
There's like nothing you can do.
Yeah, I know at least adults that are not models or anything, we can work it. But yeah, a kid, man, the sweat starts to The
Yeah,
kids
they either like
crying.
you or they don't. And when you realize they don't, you're like, oh no.
I know. For me, it was baby photography. That's why I always say 2 to 100, because I thought I wanted to be a baby photographer. And then I think it's important for photographers to realize their strength, like you did. You know, you realize, you know what, this is not for me. And so trying to shoot art photography of babies, I tried and I was out of there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that too, because that's a good point you make too. I'm a big fan of, at least in the first year, I tried nearly everything and just really sat down with myself and was like, no, like you're saying, like newborn photography is hard because if you don't photograph them in the first literally maybe like 2 to 3 weeks, it's just they're like, and they start moving too much, and it's too much.
Are you finding that clients that you did weddings for are asking you for, you know, kid and baby, and you're kind of like, I don't do that? How does that work with, you know, because the more clients you get that get married and have children, you could follow these people throughout their whole life.
Yeah, it depends on the couple and kind of how I connect with them, but for the most part, yeah, I am generally sticking to my main kind of genres of photography and just referring them out to other people.
Smart.
Because like you were saying, like just knowing what you're good at, like maternity photos, I haven't really practiced it enough. I don't pose it right.
Yeah, I'm not into them. Yeah.
Exactly. And I want the best for my clients. That's how I always approach everything. So while it would be great to get paid, I'd rather them get the best of what they want. Agreed. And I don't consider myself the best in that. So I usually refer them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just don't market it out there where I'm like, yeah, family photography.
Bring all the kids. Yeah. So I was going through your Instagram and I saw my hometown of Hoboken, New Jersey. And then I'm seeing New York, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's from North Carolina. By the way, I just want to say that I'm like a secret fan of yours because I love, first of all, you know, I'm like a mostly Fujifilm channel.
Yep.
But I love seeing behind the scenes of how photographers work. So like seeing Taylor Jackson shooting a wedding and explaining how he does. And then you with Fujifilm explaining, those of you that haven't seen John on a behind the scenes. But tell me about where New Jersey and why you're in North Carolina. Why are we apart, man?
Yeah, right. So to give you the short of my story, basically I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, born and raised.
Okay.
But after high school, I went to school in Boston for audio production, sound design.
Oh, no wonder you sound so crispy.
Yeah, gotta make it sound right.
Asthma.
But so I went to Boston, met my wife there.
Cool.
And from there, I moved to New York to pursue audio. Audio didn't really work out too well, but I still have the chops, which it pays off for video.
For sure.
From New York, that's where I started my photography business while I was also doing other things like Squarespace. Was in New York for a while. Me and my wife started having babies. We were like, we can't live in New York. It was too much. New York and kids was too much. I have a huge respect for anyone who lives in New York and has kids because it was a lot. But yeah, so then we moved to Lyndhurst, New Jersey.
For those of you, those of you that don't know, that's the town next to mine. So when he said he was, when John said he was from Lyndhurst, I was like, what, man? We could have been shooting Fuji, man.
I knew it was the same area for some reason. I'm like, I feel like I was so close to Omar, but I wasn't on YouTube. Yeah, we decided to come back home because we had too many kids at that point, and my family's here. It made more sense. We had no family in the area.
That's important.
I was always in New York. That's why I was always in Hoboken too, because good old New Jersey Transit to Hoboken.
Yeah, path. Cool cobble, kind of a Brooklyn look. Yeah. It's great to shoot there. Yeah. When you move to the new area, and this is probably important for a lot of people that are either getting started, but where do you start from scratch? I mean, you're in a new market. You have all these old clients. How does it happen?
So that actually is probably one of the harder parts. And I do believe I got very lucky because supposedly, I've heard that Raleigh, North Carolina is one of the fastest growing cities in the whole U.S. right now. And what's happening is there's a lot of people from the New York, New Jersey area moving down here.
Right.
So from being from here and also living up there, I had this weird connection with them where it was either like, oh, yeah, I used to live there, or, oh, yeah, I'm from here. And we're moving back up. So that helped a lot. But really, I just started hitting the ground and hitting areas where I could show myself. So, I got here, did one of the bigger wedding, not venues, but you know,
Oh,
like a
so you
little
used
wedding show,
yeah,
wedding
yeah, the
expo.
expos. Yeah, that's a big one.
Did that when I first showed up. I was advertising heavy on the knot in the area, stuff like that. Really just getting in front of it very
That's
quickly.
great. I mean, my growth was completely organic. Never been to any kind of showcase. I've been, you know, people reach out to advertise, and knock on wood, luckily it was a small group of people that just ballooned, and it's word of mouth and referrals. And I've been lucky in
Nice.
that way where my advertising is word of mouth and Instagram, you know, and I feel kind of like scared that I should be, you know, doing more.
Should I
Yeah, but I'm
advertise?
booked. I'm pretty much booked, except for COVID stuff, which we'll talk about in a second. But
Yeah.
pretty much, knock on wood, booked up. People are booking 2022, asking about 2023. So, but let's
Nice.
talk about that now that you know everything. We were flying and booking, and now everything came
Yeah.
to a stop. How have weddings changed? And have you lost events? How's that been going?
Yeah, so for the most part, most of my couples have rescheduled either to about now or next
Same,
year or even
same, yeah.
2022. Like everyone just pushed it out. It was really sad for some of my couples who rescheduled twice because they would reschedule to like May, June, July, and they still had to push back again. But yeah, luckily I haven't had a lot of cancellations. It's been mainly
Yep, yep.
postponements. And yeah, it's changed the game. I was very lucky as well because at the end of 2019, I decided I was going to focus more on YouTube.
Ah.
And because of that, I only booked
So you had
20-ish
open weekends
weddings.
and stuff.
Yeah, so
Ah.
I had a lot of dates open.
See,
So when the schedules
yeah,
came, I was like, I have dates.
damn
We're
you.
cool.
I filled them.
Yeah,
I filled most of
'cause-
them, and I lost about 3 or 4 big jobs because we're just Saturdays. You know, we don't do,
yeah,
yeah,
double
mostly
booked,
mitzvahs,
and that's
some
the
Fridays, but mostly Saturdays. And I don't double book ever. I try not to. I don't know if you do ever 2 weddings in a day, but I give 110% to, I would die. I give 110% to the families.
worst. Too much.
Life support, you know.
That's the word. Yeah, no, never two in a day. I've definitely done the crazy ones I've done is like North Carolina one day and then New York the
Oh, yeah.
next.
Damn, that's stressful.
But I've never again. It's too much because yeah, you're on the plane like, please don't let this flight be delayed, or I can't go to the wedding. It's the
Dude,
worst.
you're like, I'm going to Uber it all the way. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about Fujifilm because that's what we're all about. So really quick,
Yes.
congratulations first on the ambassadorship. Is it something
Thank
you
you.
pursued, or is it the usual where they find you? People will find you if you're good, you know, kind of thing.
It's definitely a half and half. I was kind of pursuing it, but I was having a hard time finding it. And just with recent events and everything kind of lined up. And yeah, they found me, I guess.
To
So
Fujifilm's credit, they've just flat out said they want to go more diverse. They're which is great. You know, I know some other big camera brands need to do a better job with a diversity and more of our skin going on, right?
exactly.
And so good on Fujifilm, and they picked up a lot of ambassadors that are diverse, and so I'm so proud of you that you are representing. And yeah. So what are the perks? What is it not? What is it? And tell us about the ambassadorship a little bit.
Yeah, generally it's pretty much working closely with Fujifilm and representing their brand. So just the perks in itself is being around Fujifilm, which is super awesome, and working with them on projects. And
I see you get that 50mm 1.0, brother.
Yep. Sometimes you get new stuff and things like that. But
cool.
It's a really cool program, and I'm glad to have been able to be selected to be in it as well. Especially how much I talk about Fujifilm, like literally, that's all I talk about. So
yeah, you were an ambassador before being an ambassador. So I think anyone, and I'm going to ask you this next, is did you think about like the YouTube ambassador dilemma? You know, because that's one of the things, like when some of the camera companies like Canon, their cameras came out, the YouTube channels were gushing, but they were mostly ambassadors, you know?
Yeah.
So did you have to kind of think about how is this going to affect credibility? Do you think my followers already know about me? What was your thought process on becoming an ambassador as a YouTuber?
Yeah, that was actually a big thing I was thinking about at first, because it could look like, okay, now he's kind of like sold out to Fuji. But again, if you knew me beforehand, I pretty much was already sold out to Fuji. It's actually funny. when I first became an ambassador, they were like, let us know what all gear you have. We just want to see what you have and what you're working with. And I start listing out my cameras and lenses, and I'm over here like, so I have 2 X-T3s and an X-T4 and an X-T30 and a 90 and a 56 and a 223s and a 16 and a 14. And I'm like, wow. I have like the whole like, why do I have so much? So yeah, like I really was, like, maybe, but then, I really love Fujifilm that much. And on top of it, they're not like strict on what you can and cannot say about things. And they've even approached me because when I became a ambassador, like right around that time, I had released 2 videos about the X-T4, and one was why you should upgrade and one was why you should not. And the why you shouldn't did way better than the why you should.
Of course, people are so negative,
Yeah, so they're like, oh yeah, we want to make you an ambassador. I was like, oh no, they're gonna see the video. And, oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, they're like,
why Fujifilm sucks by John Branch. Hey, we want you to come aboard. Yeah. Yeah, tell you. Yeah. Me, I'll never be an ambassador because I'm just like, I love to use all different kinds of cameras. And for me, Fujifilm, my followers know, but for me, Fujifilm was because I had fallen out of love of doing photography for myself. Yeah. I just wasn't bringing cameras anywhere. And then I just picked up a Fujifilm, and I just wanted to shoot all the time. And I want to keep that going because my work cameras, I put them away. I don't want to bring cameras anywhere, but I kind of keep Fujifilm for me. And I have this like love affair with the romanticism of going out and shooting, my Fuji Noir. I don't know if you saw my Fuji Noir video.
So good.
Yeah, I'm having fun. Like, Noir. Yeah. Has there been an improvement in your shooting or an adjustment XT2 to XT3 and low light techniques? Like, do you have to pre-focus? Do you turn face detection off? Because I find that was my biggest struggle with like using it as a B camera.
Yeah. I think one thing that was kind of cool about Fujifilm is it's helped me understand light better. Because I feel like, no offense to any photographers, but as our cameras continually get better and better, it almost makes us lazier. It's the same difference as like you use a digital watch all the time and then you see an analog one, and you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's been so long. So it's kind of the same thing. So as far as low light, I started on the XT2, 3, and 4. Low light performance, just camera wise, has definitely gotten better, especially between the 2 and the 2 and the 3 was a big difference.
Jump. The 2 to the 3 was a big jump. I didn't want the 3. I was like, I'm so happy with my XT2, and then I picked up the 3, and the viewfinder was huge.
It's so different.
Yeah, the clarity, like if you shoot lower ISO, the images are like crispy. Oh, man.
Yep, it's so good. So yeah, like ISO performance has gotten better, but a lot of it has been just understanding the camera. So yeah. I don't really use a lot of continuous autofocus. I don't use face autofocus like almost at all, really.
Yeah.
I tend to just use the little nub and move
single focus. Yeah.
Yep.
And so for
good old compose and
focus recompose. Yeah. You know what? It works, and that was what was happening with my Canon cameras. It became a little box in the middle, and get it done, man. You get your shots because you know what you're doing. So it's a good point. It's you can complain about the lack of automation and hey, can't find an eye through a crowd, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you know what, man? Put it in center focus and get the job done. That's kind of the whole point. All right, so the other is post-processing. When you first started Fujifilm, did you find that you were like sticking to their looks, and was there kind of a transition? Because you have a specific look now. You were very real color before, very true to color, very like Provia, and then you have an awesome like John look now. So how does that happen? Is it very conscious? Is it gradual? Or are you sitting around one Saturday and you're like, this is going to be my look?
Change it. It's definitely a gradual thing, because I remember, so I started Canon. I was Canon 6D, and I was using the Maston Labs presets.
Cool. Very film-like guys.
So,
yeah.
I was a huge fan of Maston, and I was doing that for a while. And then I switched Fuji, and I was still using Maston, and I was like, And I have the hardest time. I actually don't like my work. I'm one of those photographers. I never like my work.
Does.
So
yeah.
I was always like, I see all these other photographers. They just have this like have this that I just don't have.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I kept trying to come up with a preset of my own. And especially when I switched to Fuji, at that point, it was like, okay, the masking, I don't know, it just wasn't looking right on Fuji. So yeah, over time, I was just finding things I liked about other photographers and then kind of not copying their style, but, like learning a little bit from their look and then applying it to how I want it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Everyone, a lot of, at least in wedding photography, there's a lot of the, someone called it the neo sepia.
Yeah. So
where it's like everything's very like warm, but it's not really
sepia. It's gorgeous. My only thing with it, I love it. It's beautiful. My only fear, I'm into like the Joe McNally school of thought. His photography is like he's shooting Nikon mirrorless cameras now, and his photography colors and contrast look the same as when he was shooting film in 1975, 1980s.
Yeah.
So true to color, a little bit of saturation, and not doing too much. I've always had the fear of going into something that may be like just trending and trendy. So do you see? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So have you thought of that? And do you think your look could change?
It probably would change at some point, I would think. This is the first time I've gotten to a place where I was happy. And it literally took me like 5 years to be like, okay, I like this now. I like the way it looks.
It looks great, man, by the way.
Thank you. But yeah, I try to stay away from trends and, just kind of do my own thing. Cause especially you have the, light and airy and dark and moody.
Light and airy. I can't do light and airy. It's like, where are the people? They're like, it's like
exposure. You're in Lightroom.
+3. Select all.
So yeah, I try to sit in between that. I'm definitely kind of light and airy, but I just try and do whatever feels good to me. Which is what I was saying earlier. Like I'll find a photographer that I really like, and then figure out what I like about their photos outside of feel, outside of color, and lighting, exposure, and all of that. And then kind of like come up with my own place.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was too. National Geographic, all the guys who are getting those like bright kind of film colors, when they're doing photojournalistic, like Indian market kind of.
Yeah, and the colors are just like popping off.
So I always like that. So when and plus I'm shooting with kids and mitzvahs and things, so it lends itself to. There's a lot of lights. Colors. So I can't do the sepia thing. They would kill me. So I notice you do mostly natural light, right? And when you're shooting a wedding, it's completely crazy. You know how like a lot of photographers are bringing out lights and doing these amazing things with like 4 mag mods and a grid and putting one over there behind the couple that's blue gelled, right? They're on the side of a cliff. But as an event photographer, the reality is you only have 15 minutes with a couple. So do you find like creativity-wise that you are motivated and you want to do some of these things for your portfolio, but then it just all gets trashed because the reality of a wedding day? How do you struggle with those two? I want to be the most creative, like portfolio killer images versus, damn, I only got 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh man, that's probably the realest one. And I think you have to just kind of know where you sit within your work.
Yeah.
But also know how to direct your clients beforehand. I talk a lot about that, at least as far as wedding photography, is that your couples up front need to know what you're about, what you like to capture, and they need to realize that that's what they're hiring you for.
Got it.
So if I have a couple who is a little bit non-traditional, understands I like to, I have my like wide shot Wednesday and stuff like that, then I can suggest something like, oh, we're going to get this really dope shot and it's going to be really cool. We're going to get this wide thing. It's going to take a little bit to set up, and they're going to be fine with that because I've gotten the shots I need, all the classic stuff beforehand, and we have just enough moments to do this one thing.
Yeah.
And they trust me in that. And that's how I can still keep my creativity, but also have like let's go ahead and do the wedding photography and, the couple looking at the camera and the couple walking, like all of those
the
shots
stuff they have to get for the album kind of thing.
Exactly. Also, another thing I do, I write my own timeline. So even if the couple has a planner, I'll write my timeline and or write a timeline that matches up with the planner so that everyone knows like, I'm going to be here for these photos for this long. We're going to do these photos. We're going to do that photo. Maybe I'll grab you here for 5 more minutes outside of the timeline, but we have the time. It's not a big deal. And by laying down all of this groundwork, and this is the stuff that's not creative. This is the stuff that makes you feel like, okay, let's go to the wedding and do the same. Boop, bop,
Yeah,
bada, bada.
yeah.
But if you lay that down, it's easier then to flow within, like, hey, let's take 5 minutes and do this really cool thing. And doing that for myself is what keeps me creative too.
Totally. And so what about lighting? You're mostly a natural light photographer, and there's freedom in that. I feel that when I grab a light sometimes, I get great stuff, but it slows everything down,
It's such a slow process. And that's honestly why I tend to not really use lights, especially shooting in New York. My whole hold fast with the little bag on the back, that used to be me because I would literally hop on a subway train and go to the wedding.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to carry 50 lights and all that. Yeah. And I mean, if you have assistants and stuff, it's cool because you can be like, hey, set up this, that, and the other and get it ready. And then at least you have to move it. But for me, that process, at least as a creative, and that's why a lot of people try and act like, things like math and stuff aren't creative, but they are. Because when you look at flash photography, really, it's more on the side of math, in my opinion. Yeah. Because it's very I know I need X flash power and it needs to put here and right here. It's very mathematical, and I think that type of creativity never really stuck with me. It's funny. I went to music school thinking haha, I'm escaping math. And then,
you come half power.
Music is math. No.
It was my understanding there would be no math in this job. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I struggle with that too because I'm getting great results with using high-speed sync and lights, and it's separating me from some of the natural light mitzvah photographers in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Things are starting to kind of look the same. And when you come and bring a light out, it really, most photographers don't take the effort to do it. So I've been doing it more in my job, but you brought up an excellent point that have someone that takes care of that. Hire someone to take care of all the lighting, the carrying the bag, setting up the light, and that's the way to go. But it does take away from the couple because these are not models. My kids, sometimes I tell them, listen, just stand there. We're going to test this light. You don't have to do anything, And then you got to be fast. You can't be there boom, chimping, boom, power, boom, what's going on? No, you need 3 shots, and that's it. The light is set. So I think if you do want to get into lighting, you have to pick what John does, which is just own natural light and get his beautiful images and stuff. Or if you're going to do lighting, understand you're going to lose something with interaction and with couples and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you some questions rapid fire on Fujifilm. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. You ready? Okay, here we go. Touchscreen, yes or no?
No. 100% no.
If you could only have one lens, 23mm f2 or 35 f2?
35 f2.
For the whole wedding?
The whole wedding.
Nice. Why the 16 2.8, not the 1.4? Ooh.
It's cheaper.
Okay. Top dials, traditional top dials, or front and rear control dials?
Ooh, front and rear.
Whoa.
None of the top.
Get out of here.
Why are you using Fuji?
Yeah, get the hell out of here. Prime or zoom?
Prime. Always.
Nice. Why, real quick?
I like it. More light. I feel like I'm a part of the photo, not just
Yeah. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Yesterday, I slapped on a 28-75 Tamron because I was shooting a little Fujifilm too. It was a backyard mitzvah, so I was going between the two, and not having to change lenses. So it was great. Zoom into the ceremony, go wide. Here. So camera with a D-pad or only a joystick?
Ooh, D-pad, always.
For sure, man. These people comment on me all the time, and they're like, the joystick is enough. I don't need a D-pad. I love the D-pad.
XT30. Okay. I love it so much.
All right, flip up screen or full articulating screen for photography?
Tilt.
Yeah,
definitely tilt screen.
Totally. I love it. I don't like the screen sticking out because I like to be stealthy. I don't know if you feel the same way, right?
Exactly. It's on the side, and you're like... He's doing things. Screens.
I see you, Grandma. Now dance with me. Lightroom or Capture One, Mr. Fujifilm user?
Oh, this question.
I know, right?
Lightroom.
Yeah, I know. Me too, man. It's okay, guys.
Guys, it's okay.
It works. I know. The worms. The worms. Yeah. Listen, Lightroom is fantastic for cataloging. For I love Capture One too, and it really does a better job with Fujifilm files. But it comes down to speed and workflow and putting your look on there and.
Exactly. And as a wedding photographer, that's everything to me. So I need to be like, boom, 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 3,000 photos edited. Yeah.
Done. Yeah. But work-life balance, man. After you finish your wedding, you want to be with your family.
Exactly.
This has been awesome, man. We got to do it again. Thank you so much, John, for hanging out with us. And once you, for sure. Tell us your website, where your Instagram, and what do you got going on?
Oh, yeah. So basically everything on the internet is some kind of JBIV photography.
Are you a fourth?
.com.
You're a fourth?
Yeah.
Nice.
And my son is the fifth. I'm making a dynasty.
John Branch the fifth. That's cool.
But yeah, JBIV photography everywhere. So at JBIV photography. That's me on the internet.
All right, John. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Peace.
All right.